All right, we're going to get started. So this is uh can't believe I haven't done a webinar on this topic before, but here we go. This is a webinar, the topic that I've actually I gave a talk on this once, and it was kind of funny, and I got in trouble because the topic upset some people in the audience, and it was kind of a larger audience of people, and there actually was a POW in there, but it was not an attorney. But anyway, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Uh, this particular webinar, I think, is a very good topic for regardless of what level of your career you're at. It's going to tell you kind of what practice setting often you belong in, what type of market you belong in, what type of firm you belong in, and whether or not, even if you want to become a lawyer in many cases, because a lot of the things, or stay a lawyer, a lot of the things I'm going to talk to you about today. And, just at the outset, I mean, I've seen some just crazy things, and I'm going to tell you some of the craziest things I've seen in my 25 years or 30 years of being an attorney and 25 of recruiting, and how those sorts of things, what's happened to people that I've known that have had, lots of crazy bad things happen to them, including dying, going to prison, all sorts of things, and then most of it related to the stress of practicing law and not being able to make sense of a lot of things that happen in their career. So this is a live webinar. So after the presentation, I will take questions about anything that you have questions, related to this webinar or anything else. And so I'll do the presentation, and then if you can think of questions during the webinar or after, anything doesn't have to relate to the webinar, we'll answer them. So I'm going to tell you today, why people often get out of the practice of law, why they have issues with it, regardless of the firm size. I'm going to tell you sort of the characteristics that people need to do well a lot of times in these environments. I'm going to tell you how the environments kind of often bring out the worst in people and make it very, very difficult for them. And then I'm going to tell you, how to succeed in these types of environments. What I've seen people do that are able to succeed as well. Yeah, just give me a second here. Sorry. So I had this interesting thing happen. It wasn't too long ago. And most of the time when I'm talking to attorneys, the attorneys I talk to, regardless of what firm they're at or city or whatever, most people do not have a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for what they're doing. I would say probably 10% do, and the other 90%, the enthusiasm for their job, feeling really, really good about it, feeling good about their practice here and everything, doesn't really come through. So it's like when, if I talk to 10 attorneys, it's only going to be like one generally that's going to have some level of enthusiasm for what they're doing. So I was talking to this woman. I couldn't believe it. I was talking to this woman. She was an American attorney, and I think she spoke Japanese, and took the bar in the United States, and then is working at a law firm in Japan. And she was just someone I was talking to, and this person, it was very funny. She was just very, very happy. She was very chipper voice, very enthusiastic, laughing, had a funny image on her Skype handle. This is before people use Zoom all the time, and just had a very, very upbeat and happy personality. And I noticed this, and I thought it was just so remarkable because literally, I talked to attorneys all day, and this isn't the sort of thing that I ever encounter. Most people are negative. They're often suspicious. They're difficult to connect with. They try to get you off the phone. But this person was just literally seemed like just about the happiest attorney that I'd ever spoken with, and in a long time. She was talking about how great the weather was. She was excited to go out at lunch. It's her secretary's anniversary that day. She ordered her flowers. She's going to be excited. I mean, this is just not the way that attorneys, typically talk or ever. And it struck me because this was just such a difference between what I'm used to seeing when I talk to attorneys and what I was seeing with this person. And then when I got off the phone, I literally thought that it almost seemed like this was a prank or something. I was thinking to myself, like, what just happened? Because just imagine too that I talk to attorneys several a day, and I've been doing it for 25 years about their career, and I never, had seen anything like this. Anybody that happy or like outgoing and enthusiastic, and what I've noticed is that level of kind of enthusiasm and happiness and excitability and looking at the world in a very, very positive way. That most attorneys aren't that way. I mean, some are, of course, but the majority of them aren't. And I'm going to tell you why. And simply also for some of the largest firms, it's even less so. What does that mean? And why do I say that it's such a stressful job and why it can be so difficult? And why is it so remarkable to me that an attorney I spoke to was just so positive, and she was working in a Japanese law firm, which I guess must have been a not much nicer place as the only American attorney. But why is that just so unusual to find people that are happy like that? And also, it's not just attorneys. A lot of times in even larger markets, like people are unhappier. You go around LA and you meet people, and there's a lot more negativity than there might be if you were meeting people. I was meeting someone from Florence the other night, and just incredibly happy. And everyone she knows in LA was like, "Why are you so happy? It doesn't make any sense." And so sometimes there's the people. Most attorneys are not that happy, and a lot of times when you go into larger cities, it's sort of the same thing. People aren't always as happy. They're comparing each other to other people. They're competitive. Bad things are happening to them, and who knows? But so what have I seen? So I know personally two lawyers that committed suicide that I knew well. I know three others, who died from heart attack. Oh, wait, yeah, three lawyers who died from heart attacks, and two of them that were actually in their early 40s, and then one I think was maybe in his late 40s. One of the attorneys, this is an attorney that worked for me that I used to see every day. And he was working in I owned an office building. He was working in that office building. And he was just missing. He was gone for a week. And then the firm he worked for, noticed, hadn't even noticed he was gone. So yeah. And he was found a week later. He'd blown up like a balloon. Until his timesheet. So when those weren't entered in the system, they found him. There's two attorneys I worked with when I was practicing law. I'm not going to say what firm, but one went to prison for murdering his wife, and another for stealing $270 million from some people. And these are two attorneys literally that used to give me assignments and work to do for them that I worked for. And then another person that worked in my recruiting firm as an attorney after working here. He worked in a large law firm before that. Was charged with attempted murder for trying to stab his girlfriend with a bread knife. So, these are just some examples of, people that I've known that have died very early from, heart attacks, I'm sure related to stress. One very sad guy remember he was, attorney I knew very well, and he had been working like very, very long hours. And then he flew home for Christmas, and he was young. He was like in his early 40s, and walked into his living room to see his mother in Atlanta or something, and just died right there. It's crazy. So why am I telling you this? One of the things that I've noticed is, I used to work in Detroit. I was a contractor, and And I'd meet there were not good people there, and I've never met people like I didn't know of all the people I know that knew there. I mean, I haven't known anybody that went to prison or died these ridiculous early deaths and things and had all these sorts of problems. It was only when I kind of got into law firms and then started spending a lot of time around attorneys that I noticed. I had one woman that I placed. This is early in my career. Oh, she was like at the top of her class at a Ivy League law school, and then when she got into this law firm in LA, I placed her there. Then months later, she was just in this horrible position where she'd become like addicted to crystal meth and was dating a member of a Latin gang. Her husband called me because he knew that I'd placed her. And, he said that, she was working 96 hours at a stretch and then sleeping for 24 hours. And then it got to a point where she lost her job, sold her wedding ring. So this, happened and to this woman, and she was before going to law school, she'd been, I think, a cocaine addict and had some other issues. I don't know what it was, but some trauma or something. But she said that when she got into the law firm, it like re-triggered all that, and it was almost as if she was in an environment that was just as stressful as she'd been in before. So, and so why does I come up with this topic about a POW camp? I had an attorney that I was talking to that he actually spent he was chewing his nails, like so his fingers were bleeding and stuff. And he came home from work, and I guess at night, and the pillow he slept in because his nails were bleeding. The pillow was, there was blood on it, and I asked him why it was so stressful, and he said he was a patent attorney, and he said that he's only given like a certain amount of time to work on each patent, and if he doesn't do the patent in the amount of time he's supposed to, then he, doesn't get credit for his time, and then they're not given enough time. So he worked like 2,600 hours and he only got credit for 1,800 hours. And he said he didn't understand how people could do it, that he's just in this very competitive environment. The people he's working with aren't his friends. The people that are giving him work are unpleasant. He has he's in a situation where he has a mortgage on a condominium. He's got a family he needs to support, and he realizes he could lose his job at any second, and that finding another one won't be easier. People that he's trying to get the patents through are rude to him. He doesn't have any contact with our clients, and he just he feels like he's just expected to sit there like a prisoner in a small office all day, around people that aren't nice to him, that don't communicate with him, that don't appreciate him. And he comes home at night, and his wife's upset with him because he's not spending more time with them. He's not seeing his kids grow up. And then, I made a joke, it sounds worse than being in a POW camp. And he said, well, so, at least when and he said, at least there you wouldn't have to, you don't have to look forward to, your wife divorcing you, which I never sees you. I don't know, saying things like that. And so I, it's very clear to me that, practicing law for a lot of people can be incredibly stressful. It can be, one of the worst experience, the people can actually go through, and it can be a pretty horrible profession for a lot of people. And I'm going to tell you how it doesn't have to be, but I'm also going to tell you sort of the things that people that make it seem that way for people, and kind of how to deal with that. That it can make you unhappy, and what you're up against. And we'll talk about those right now. Okay, so one of the things that is very, very stressful about practicing law and that scares me, and I hate to even mention to a lot of people, but it does scare me, is that I see people go to law firms, and I see this all the time, and this is something that if I was, it's one of the reasons that I got out of the practice of law when I was after over a little over 3 years. But it's very, very common for an attorney to work 2,900 hours or 3,400 hours a year, and they could do it for 10 years or more, even at the same firm. And it's exceedingly rare, almost regardless of what firm you're at, if you're trying to work, if you're in a large law firm or a lot of law firms, for any of for you to advance to get to a position of economic security. Like you're still going to be insecure. You could work in a law firm and you could work there that long, and then if the law firm doesn't have any opportunity for you to advance or to become a partner, and if you don't, if all you've done is sacrifice your time, you're often just not going to get ahead. So everybody joins law firms excited that they're going to be able to get ahead. And for most people, it often doesn't happen. So, imagine getting a job at a really like a top law firm or a good law firm and working very, very hard, but then nothing ever happening because of it. And that's one of the things I'll just tell you, like what I see on an ongoing basis is, I mean, every day I'm talking to people that have joined law firms and worked extremely hard, and then they get senior, and the opportunities just dry up. Sometimes they're kept at the firm, other times they're not, and often the jobs they go into, they lose their jobs and they don't have anything. So it can be a very, very difficult job because you often will have nothing to look forward to. If what you're looking forward to is security, you have only thing you have to look forward to often is insecurity. If you don't develop a book of business, I mean, these are one of the ways you avoid this, or you don't find a firm that's going to give you work forever. So when I was practicing, one of the things that disillusioned me the most is I was working at the Los Angeles office of a New York law firm, and there were I was on a floor with it was a whole floor. I mean, the firm had multiple floors, but the floor I was on had I think there was about maybe 12 partners or something on there, and these were partners that were able to become partners by I think working on institutional clients at the firm and doing well. And I mean, in today's, they would probably be making the equivalent of, I don't know, several $1 million a year. But I got there at this firm, and then the firm was started having all these issues. And within a year, only, out of 7 or 8 partners that were on my floor, like only 1 or 2 were left. I mean, they literally lost their jobs because I guess they didn't have enough work or whatever. And that was scary to me. I was like, so wow. So if I become a partner, what do I have to look forward to? Is this what happens to people? It seems very, very insecure. Another partner I was working with who's a very good attorney, she left to become a judge. And so all these people had career instability at this firm, and they were just kind of being, worked out. And I see this for people all the time. So people will get into the practice of law, and they will get into law firms, and they won't necessarily know if they're ever going to advance. They're not. If they're taking in, if they're allowing themselves to be, employed by other people, they're going to have, issues. So, what happens? So if you become really, really good at your job, you'll make more money. I guess that's one thing. You'll have a better title. But you'll also have to work very, very long hours. So you'll have to be, you may not be able to see your family as much. You're going to deal with unpleasant things and stress. And, so people, lots of attorneys will look around at themselves and they'll see, what is happening. Like if I'm a young attorney, or even if I'm a older attorney, is this really what I want? Do I want to have to bill all these hours and work all this time? Do I want to be in a situation where my job might be insecure? Do I want to, is this meaningful to me doing the work I'm doing? And so a lot of people look around them and they realize that there's no meaning for them in this. And what are they looking forward to? Do they want to be like the partners and people that they're working for, or what is it that they want? And it's important to understand too that when an attorney is young, so they're marketable typically you're most marketable between having 2 to 6 years of experience. And then once you get older, law firms are less interested in having anything to do with you. Now, there's a bunch of reasons for that I don't need to really get into a lot of detail about today. But essentially, if you once you get beyond 6 years of experience in a law firm, unless you don't unless you have your own work, it becomes very, very, very difficult for you to stay employed. So you can go someplace and do really good work, but as you get more senior, if you're not able to bring in your own work or just be exceptional at a major law firm, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to stay employed. And the shelf life of an attorney is in a law firm isn't that long if you don't or if you're not able to build a book of business or find people to employ you. And in a POW war zone, I guess you would you look forward to getting out, but in a law firm, you don't necessarily know whether things are going to get better. So not having anything to look forward to. So one of the things too, I would also say that when you talk about things being negative, I mean, it's important to understand what are the consequences. So the consequences is if you're relying on other people in a law firm to advance you, to give you work, to do all these things, then that's a problem. If you don't like the work that you're doing, or you're not 100% like just enthusiastic about being an attorney and doing the work, I mean, then are you going to be able to? Are you looking forward to long hours and working very hard? So a lot of people aren't, and so you have to put yourself, in a situation like, what do you have to look forward to? And the most obvious thing that I would say to everyone, just to understand, is this psychology of not having much to look forward to, like working in a big law firm for 10 years and then losing your job. Not having anything to look forward to just means if you want to have something to look forward to, then you're going to have to take charge of your career and your life, and you're going to have to figure out how to do it sooner rather than later. And that's one reason people start their own practices. They do other things. They go into other professions. That's one of the big things. Now, here's one of the big ones, and this is one of the most important rules that attorneys need to learn. Younger attorneys and also older attorneys need to learn. This rule is that no one is really your friend, and your coworkers, competitors are generally interested in seeing you fail because that means they will advance. And if you share any sort of personal information with someone in your firm, the odds are that it will be used against you later. So you tell someone you've got issues with alcohol, that will be used against you. You tell someone you cheated on someone, that will be used against you. Anything you say in a law firm typically and to your peers or to anybody will be used against you. No one is your friend. And it's just an important point to pick up. I mean, I know an attorney that, well, actually it's a judge I know, and got Parkinson's disease and kept it very, very hush between his family and a couple other people. And everyone started, sharing information. I mean, this is how it works. I mean, in law firms, really, no one is your friend. So how does that work? So if you're a litigator, like I knew a guy that was a friend of mine, and he was a partner in a large law firm, and doing very, very well as a litigator, making like millions of dollars a year. And he said that he just found it completely alienating because no one was your friend. And he's the one that first gave me this kind of understanding. So if you're a litigator, the client often is going to be angry with you. They're going to be angry with you if you lose. They're going to be angry with you about your bills. They're going to be angry. They may be looking for you to slip up. Sometimes the client, maybe someone that's your client, maybe there's someone else in the client that wants to hire another attorney. So clients are often looking for you to slip up. They're looking for you to make mistakes. They may want to fire you. They may think your bills are too high. If you're an associate in a law firm, other people are competing with you for the best assignments, and they're trying to look better than you. They may be undermining you. So that's just something to understand. So other associates are competitive with each other. Other associates talk behind each other's backs. If you and you go out with if you normally go out with three associates for lunch, and then one day you go out with two, those two will probably talk negatively about the third, and vice versa. And it's just how it works. So people are competing, sharing information. Partners you're working for are constantly, if you're an associate, are constantly evaluating you and watching you very closely. They're looking for you to do something wrong. They may never appreciate what you're doing. They may never say thank you. If you're, if you do something wrong, they may not help you. They may use it against you in the future. I've seen people like been up for partnership in law firms and been told about some little thing they did years ago that upset someone and make them partner. If you're going to court, the court's not your friend. They're always yelling and sanctioning attorneys, and the court's going to, rule for one person or another. So that's another thing you have going with the court. You have to worry about that. Opposing counsel, of course, is another one. They're always out to destroy you and see you slip up. They're out to get you. So you have all these different enemies. You have the partners you're working for. You have the opposing counsel. You have the client. You have your other associates. All these people, like in a law firm, no one is your friend. I mean, it's absolutely insane if you think about it. I mean, how crazy or what type of job exists where everybody's trying to make you fail, and that's what happens. I mean, you're surrounded by threats. It's scary. Not only are you surrounded by threats, but you're in a job that's unstable, and you're expected to keep your head up and keep going, and you're working a lot of times against people that aren't trying to advance you. Partners don't want to advance you. Partners only will advance an associate to partner if they have to, meaning you have so much business or you're doing so much of this that that they need to keep you around because you're making them so much money. So, in a firm, the perception many attorneys have is that everyone is out to destroy them. And that, frankly, a lot of that is true. I mean, you have other people that are against you, and it's scary, and people are leaving, and things are, negative things are happening. So it's just something, to be aware of. The other thing that's a lot of attorneys don't understand is that almost everyone is easily replaceable. I mean, when I say easily replaceable, very easily replaceable. If a law firm, has an opening for an associate in a large market, for example, they can generally find someone to within 24 hours. If the law firm needs a partner, like without business, to do a certain practice area, they can generally find someone in about 1 to 2 hours. And when I'm joking about this, but literally, there are, for every job for like a senior litigator without business in a law firm, there's probably, in a big city, hundreds, if not over 1,000 good applicants for that. I mean, there's just so many people. You could find literally an attorney in the middle of the night. You call someone at 3 a.m. and say, I have an opening for a litigator, done firm 10 years of experience. They might agree to be there in the morning. I mean, it's just, I'm joking around, but at the same time, I mean, this is how, some jobs are. There's just far more attorneys than there are jobs, and most people are fairly easily replaceable. And if you're in a small market, like you're in, Nebraska or something, yeah, then no, it's not going to be easy to replace you, or Wyoming. But literally, people are replaceable, and I can get applicants. Any job that I have, I can get multiple applicants. I've seen attorneys move to Alaska for jobs. I've seen several attorneys move to small islands in the middle of the Pacific for jobs like Guam and weird islands. I even saw someone get a job at a law firm in Afghanistan. I don't know how that worked, but these firms, if they have openings, they will get applicants. And so, regardless of what your job is, the odds are that you're pretty easily replaceable. And that's something that just people a lot of times don't. They think that they're in the driver's seat, but most of the time you're really not. And New York, like a law firm can have these ridiculous demands. They might say, I want someone with between 18 and 25 months of experience doing this type of private equity work, and literally, the law firm may start receiving resumes if they post a job. They'll start receiving resumes probably in about 45 minutes once they put them on their website. And why is that? That's because like a market like New York is extremely efficient. So the second a job comes out, recruiters are emailing and calling and doing all these things to find candidates for the firm. And every attorney, if you're an attorney at a big firm in New York, I mean, you know that anytime certain things come out, you start getting emails and and the like from recruiters. And so literally, if you're in a big firm and you're not doing good work, or someone doesn't like you or whatever, the law firm can usually replace you pretty quickly, and they don't have openings. The openings aren't around very long. I had something happen. I mean, this is just to show you how scary this profession can be. I had an attorney who had worked in a small firm for several years, and I don't think he'd gotten a raise. And then and every time the last time he asked for a raise, I guess he was told it would probably happen at the beginning of the next year, and then he didn't. For whatever reason, he wanted the he asked that his boss, the attorney, could put this in writing by email, and then the boss, basically, and the boss like paused, and then he said, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you down to accounting. We'll issue your final check, and I'm gonna, and then he was, removed from the law firm's website. Literally that day. He said, I have tons and tons of applicants for your position. I don't like the way you're acting. And that was it. So the guy was, when I told the story originally, I had a lot more detail associated with this, but it was a good story. I mean, essentially what happened is that the guy, ended up losing his job just because he asked the partner to put down that he would give him a raise. And a few days later, this particular guy, after losing his job, he checked the website of the firm, and there was already a replacement there. So, people that are in law firms, it's difficult for them to understand, especially when you're an associate or your partner that's dependent on others for work. Most people are fairly easily replaceable. And if you're a POW, I mean, you're not easily replaceable because you're very valuable and they can trade you for other prisoners and all these sorts of things. But in a law firm, most people are expendable, and that's scary. I mean, it's a scary thing because law firms know that there's lots of people for most jobs that will want to work there. That doesn't mean that they're going to be better than you. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be easy for them because there's certain practice areas and things where it's more difficult, but most people are fairly easily replaceable. The other thing in a law firm, that happens is, you're generally working, you're generally going to lose your job in most law firms at some point. Certainly not all law firms, but in a lot of law firms. And it can be very, very scary because most attorneys will lose their job at some point, and you don't know really when it's going to happen or why it's going to happen. I know people. And again, most attorneys will lose their jobs. Even if you're a partner in a law firm, the odds are you'll lose your job at some point. I mean, you won't, not all of you, of course, but most people will lose their jobs. And, so I know, like, it's funny to me, like, because I look at attorneys and how difficult their jobs are and how competitive they are and how insecure they can be. And, I know people that have made and, continue to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just selling cars, like working in a BMW dealership or whatever. I know people who got out of school and graduated from college and didn't know what they wanted to do, and sorry, became financial advisors and are making millions of dollars a year just trading stocks for clients. I know people, that have each of these people have skills where they can they can go anywhere, and it'd be very, very difficult for them to lose a job. I was not too long ago. I was in a Cadillac dealership, and there was a salesman in his late 80s, and he was wearing like a hoot suit, like an old suit, and he was wiping drool from his face on a handkerchief, and he said he'd worked at dealerships and. Since I don't know, this is maybe 2010 or something or five, but he said he'd been working in the dealership since the 1940s, and he has all these people that have returned and buy his cars every year. And to me, that was just amazing. I mean, you can sell cars and just continue going in your career, but what are the odds that an attorney could do that? And so you can go to many law firms, and if the work slows down, you're doing, you can lose your job. You can go to a law firm and I've seen people to be at law firms for 20 years and then lose their job because they're on the wrong side of some political thing. I've seen people lose their jobs because, for all sorts of different reasons. But the point is that you can go to a law firm and you can lose your job without a lot of notice, and it's painful. I mean, it's not something that's good. You can dedicate your life to what you're doing, and it can be very, very difficult to overcome kind of a sense of worthlessness and feeling judged and feeling badly about yourself when you lose your job through like no fault of your own. People have families and lose their jobs. It's very common for what happens a lot of times to very, very like highly motivated associates. They work very, very hard in a law firm, and then they're made partner. They don't get business in a couple of years, and then they lose their jobs, and then their families collapse and they get divorced. And it's all these. I mean, it's very, very common, these things. Now, there's a lot of success. There's a lot of success stories too. This is kind of a negative topic, but there's a ton of success stories. But this is what happens to the majority of people. To say, they end up giving everything they got to law firms, the hours, whatever, and then they end up not being able to stay employed. Becomes very difficult, for them, to live there, and it often can feel like a very slow death, and it's one reason why I think a lot of people aren't that happy and chipper like the person I was talking to. So you never know in a law firm, when you're going to lose your job. And how do people lose their jobs? I mean, I've seen people lose their jobs because a big litigation case they were working on suddenly settled. I remember there was a law firm in New York that had hired all of these people that had come over from, I think, Jones Day to this other firm, and then they'd all worked on this big matter for a couple of years, like three attorneys, and then the matter settled, and they all lost their jobs, and so they were looking for jobs, and so it's just the idea of not having any feeling secure in your job, feeling like your job's going to be there tomorrow. The idea of knowing that if you don't get business, things will slow down, and you might lose work. That you could become a partner, and if you don't keep your book of business, you'll lose your job. So all these sorts of things are scary for people. And then this is one of the other big things that I think is extremely important. So law firms also, if you're working in a law firm, most law firms will not give the most enthusiastic reviews to people. They'll often give for junior associates typically get very, very harsh reviews, and then when the attorney starts to become profitable, which is after they've gotten a couple of years of experience, then they start getting very good reviews because the law firm wants to keep them around. And then all of a sudden, after like 6 or 7 years, the reviews may become negative or not as positive as long as the person's profitable. And then all of a sudden, if the law firm doesn't think they're as profitable, or they think they're replacing with someone better and hardworking, then the reviews will go bad. So so it's just, this is kind of how things work. But there's very very little positive feedback in law firms. And thankfully, I mean, the whole time I was practicing law, I didn't really ever have formal reviews, but I was working in this New York law firm's Los Angeles office, and there were partners who came out from New York for whatever reason to do these reviews, and so I no one knew who these people were. I guess they just didn't want to have the people you're working with review you. And so one day I was just sitting in my office, and two of these guys showed up in my office and started giving me this horrible review. I couldn't even believe that reviews were like this. They were saying things like I should start looking for a new job. No one had confidence in me. I had a bad brand. People didn't like me. Just I couldn't believe like the things I was being told. And then they said something like, and we're not even going to talk about what happened with Bob. And I was like, who's Bob? I mean, I had no idea who Bob was, because, I'm sorry, I knew who Bob was. He was a partner in the firm, but he was someone that I'd never worked with. And I said, I've never worked with Bob. And most of the stuff you're talking about, I don't even, know what you're saying. I didn't do a trial. And then these two looked at each other, and they said, "Oh, we're sorry. We were actually giving you someone else's reviews and some review." And they said, "We'll come back later." I never saw them again, and it was strange. But from my perspective, it was someone that I knew. I knew who they were talking about, and I figured it out. And it was someone that I was extremely impressed with. He was a really hardworking, senior associate there. He seemed like he was giving it everything he got because I obviously wanted to be a partner. And it was so just incredibly, it was scary. And I was like, this is maybe what I have to look forward to. So at that point in time, it was just kind of, it's taught me like, would I want to stick around, with this kind of negative feedback if I was going to get that? And is that something that I want when people are going to push you out? So it's just something, I guess, to think about it. And law firm can be a place where there's just not a lot of positive feedback. I mean, many times the feedback you get in a law firm, instead of people telling you that you're doing well, typically what they'll do is they'll just give you more work to do and or repeat work and better assignments and things. So that's how you know if you're doing a good job. But there's just a lot. You're typically not going to get a lot of positive feedback, even with clients. Like clients will often not give you a lot of positive feedback. They'll think I paid for this, and I got this person this result or whatever, and you won't get positive feedback. So you're not going to get a lot of positive feedback time from clients. And then this is just another thing I kind of talked about a little bit earlier, but your career in a law firm can often end any second. And this is it's terrifying for me because I've just seen this so often. So if a litigation cases settle, whole department, a bunch of people in the department can lose their job. If Oftentimes what happens is it hasn't been happening as much recently, but when the corporate market slows down, whether it's securities or capital markets, or mergers or finance, when it can often slow down dramatically, and then law firms will let go just major numbers of corporate attorneys, inside the firm, and that can happen. And then people will go out there and then won't be able to find another job. Sometimes people might have made a mistake years earlier, and suddenly it can come back, some sort of malpractice thing, and it can be over instantly. I've seen so many careers like just end like instantly, that it's just for reasons that you can't even believe. I had one guy at a law firm uh, he was in upstate New York. He was a partner, and there was casual dress day, like one Friday. He came into work, and he had a rip in his jeans, and a woman associate saw it and said she thought it was too close to his crotch. And he'd been at this firm for like 20 years, and she made a complaint, and the firm fired him for that, saying it was horrible behavior. That happened, and he had a very hard time finding a job. I had God, it was just people losing their jobs for crazy reasons. Um, oh yeah, I had another partner I was working with in Chicago, and he like 5 or 6 years previously, he'd had a relationship with a paralegal at this law firm, a brief relationship, and that wasn't even uh, on his floor, practice area, anything. And 5 years after this happened, the paralegal's new boyfriend called up the firm and complained and said that he thought that this was inappropriate, what had happened. And he lost his job, and he had a good job. I mean, he was making like, $4 or $5 million a year. He had a large book of clients, and because all this happened and the way it went down, his career ended. And he ended up going in house. I mean, all these things can happen. People can, your career can just suddenly be, broadsided by things, and so it can make it, incredibly stressful. And I knew another guy that was. This is a crazy story too. He was he was on track to become a partner in a major U.S. law firm, and I he anyway the firm he'd already I learned about this after the fact, but that he'd already been elected to be a partner. They just hadn't. He'd been over billing 2,500 hours a year at the firm for several years. I mean, they just hadn't finally voted. I guess they whatever he was going to meet a partner. And so a few days before he was going to even learn about this and everything was going to be finalized, a partner asked him whether or not he'd sent on a matter he was working with just a low stakes letter, nothing that important, to opposing counsel on a case he was working on. He replied that he'd done it the previous night. And then when he returned to the office, this is the guy that said he sent the letter, he realized that while he drafted the letter, he'd actually forgotten to send it because he'd just been working, very, very long hours. And so he sent the firm the email with the letter, and the opposing counsel responded, and while copying the partner, and they realized that it asked him to send the letter, and they realized that he'd actually hadn't sent the letter, the day before, and they thought that was very serious, and he'd lied, even though it was an innocent mistake, and they fired him, and they blackballed him too. Like they were very angry about it for whatever reason. And think about that, your career just ending for these kind of weird, reasons that don't seem that consequential. And this particular guy returned to, a small town on the East Coast where his parents live, and it was crazy. It was a firm that, they only had one type of partnership, equity and non-equity, and lost it all because of mistakes. So, this is, it's difficult. Like corporate attorneys, when the market slows, they often, will be in a big firm and they'll lose their job and won't be able to get another one. People will, go into, a law firm, and a good sized law firm. They'll be there 1 year and then they'll lose their job or make some sort of mistake, and they'll make it very, very difficult for them to ever get in a large law firm again if they have, these gaps and things in their resume. And you can lose your job for forgetting to do something simple. And then the final thing that I think makes this practicing law very stressful is that you don't have any real control over your time. That is, if in most practice areas, not all, but the firm owns your time. So they own your weekends, they own your vacations, they own your holidays. Because if a client has an issue, you need to respond to that. You need to start work on a moment's notice, and whenever you're called on. And there was a time that I had an experience where I came to work on a Thursday morning, and I and didn't leave. I mean, I left literally straight through until Sunday at 6 a.m. And it was Easter Sunday. I emailed the project to a partner, and then I went home, and it was I got home. I left. It took me like over an hour to get to sleep until like 8 a.m. because I was so wired from coffee and everything. And then at 8:30, my phone rang, and I've been sleeping so much I didn't hear it. My wife had to like wake me up and shake me. And the partner that I've been working for was calling me. She's on the way to church, and she said she hadn't yet received the memo. And I told her I'd mailed it to her a few hours earlier, and she insisted I go into the office and resend it to her. And I was extremely angry when I got off the phone. I slammed my arm into a wall, so hard that it ended up causing like nerve damage. And then even, with 1 hour of sleep, having been up since, Thursday, I went into the office. And when I arrived, I checked and I saw that the memo had been sitting there in the outbox. And then I called the IT team and they said that, oh, they reboot the servers every Sunday night. The emails don't go out for a few hours after that. And that's why that didn't happen. But even after that, the partner was upset. And it didn't make any difference that I worked 72 hours straight. So it is, you just don't have control of your time. Now that is an abnormal thing. Didn't do that very again ever. But at the same time, you don't have control of your time. And my first legal job, I remember I took a 1 week vacation one summer, and the night before I left on this vacation, a partner called me that I worked with and told me that everyone at the firm hoped to have a nice vacation, and I thought that was just kind of crazy. Like, hope to have a nice vacation, like and it was basically saying, basically making it made me feel like I shouldn't have taken any time off, and a lot of attorneys never take vacations and don't have control over their time and. That's another thing is it's very, very difficult to have control over your time. So, a lot of what I've talked about today are, negative things about practicing law, lack of control over your time, stressful conditions, having, being able to, lose your job at a moment's notice, like all these different things that can happen. Your career ending very, very quickly, and these are things that keep attorneys like in a constant state of stress. And so, and literally, it causes them to die early. They die from heart attacks. They die from, they get, they go off the deep end and commit crimes and things. And, so it can really bring out the worst in people. And as someone who's seen like so many people die and go crazy and have all these issues from it, you might be asking like, what is the point of what I'm saying, and what are the upsides of all this? And I'll tell you, what the upsides are, and I want to like really emphasize this because you can actually be very happy and successful practicing law, but you can be very happy and successful doing anything. But you have to ask yourself, like, what makes me happy, and what is going to work for me, and the most important thing really is to have control. And so what does control mean? Control means that you have the ability to have control over your life and your career. You have the ability to have control over the amount of money you make. You have ability to have control over the kind of work that you do. You have the ability to have control over your destiny. You have the ability to improve. You have the ability to get better. And then also you have the ability to feel valued for who you are and for what you do. And is that if your goal is to be valued and your goal is to have control, I think that the most important thing for a lawyer is you spend your first 5 or 6 years getting trained in something, or maybe you're 10 years out and you need to get trained in something new. But you get trained in something, then you become an expert in it, and then you figure out either how to get your own clients, which is very, very important, or you figure out how to start your own firm. So that's having your own clients and having your own firm, and essentially having your own business. And I really wish, I don't know why, but the most important thing for attorneys to learn, in my opinion, and even law students, should be how do you start your own legal business? Because the attorneys that I know that have the largest books of business, a law firm essentially exists to support attorneys that have work. So if you're a partner and you have $10 million in business and you want to go to whatever, name 10 AmLaw 100 law firms, and you want to look at 10 of those, they will all talk to you and they will offer you something. Some will offer you better associates, some will offer you better office space and the locations or other practice areas you can have your clients. I mean, some will offer you a better brand. So that's what the partners do. Partners have the most successful attorneys have their own businesses. And so those businesses are their clients. And so they take those businesses and they sell them. They hire law firms to help them service those clients. That's what people do. And that's people that start their own law firms also do something similar. they have their own clients, and they bring in clients and they try to grow a business. And the law firm is a good business because, if you're billing out at $500 an hour, and you're in an office that costs you $2,000 a month. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, or 5,000 a month. I mean, you're making a decent amount of money, and you're selling your time and other things, or your personal injury attorneys. The people that I know that are really the happiest practicing law, they have made this switch from being an employee to a business owner. Because anytime you're an employee, you can just be let go instantly, and you're dependent upon others. And so you need to take control of yourself, and you need to like build yourself up and think about what I can do and how can I control my destiny instead of being controlled by others. And so all the stories I told you about partners losing their jobs, about people experiencing all this stress, about feeling confined, like losing their job, all these awful things. These happen to people, not all of them, but a lot of them who were unable to control their destinies and were dependent upon other people. So are there benefits to being dependent on other people? Sure. I mean, it's good to have others run businesses and have to pay payroll and do all these things and be responsible for other things. But there's much greater benefits from the standpoint of your self-esteem, of your security and things, to taking and thinking about practicing law in a way that is not the way that most people are thinking about it. Most people are thinking about getting the best job they can and making the most money, but they're concerned about how prestigious they look compared to their job looks compared to other people. All these sorts of things, or they're competitive with other people. But I think that the happiest people and the people that ultimately, do the best in this profession are ones that are able to step from being dependent on others and basically controlled by others and a hostage to others and a hostage to people that have the work, a hostage to law firms that have the work, hostage to people that want to pay you what they want to pay you, hostage to people that are going to make you work the hours they want you to work, hostage to people that are going to, that are going to make you feel like you're replaceable, like all these sorts of things. You just need to, you need to look at your career in a way where, like, you need to, first of all, you need to feel like secure. So how do you make yourself secure? Like, you think about that, like, what are the things I need to do? And then you want to be around people, of course, that you like, which is extremely important, that make you feel good about yourself, and people that challenge you and doing work that you find is interesting. But in my experience, the happiest and the most successful attorneys that I've seen are ones that are able to turn themselves in from this cycle of dependence to a cycle of where they're making things happen, for themselves. And what the point of all this stress and things. So people do go into large law firms and they thrive. They do exceptionally well. There are people that have the right mindset, that where this clicks for them naturally, and where they understand how to get along with people in a way, how not to allow different things to stress them out, to upset them, and how to succeed, how to bring in clients, how to do good work, how to be respected, how to thrive in an organization with people and get along well. And there's actually a lot of people that are very, very good at this. And for those people, they are 100% in the right profession. Even if you feel like everyone's an enemy and stuff, the culture of the law firm you're in can make a big difference too. Like, you can be in the right place that's bringing out the best in you. And there are people that are very well suited to all of this, to getting through all this sort of stress. And sometimes there are people that see a situation as extremely stressful, and then other people that would be in the same situation and it makes them thrive. So it's just something you need to think about it. And is this, if are you comfortable being in a cycle of dependence where all of these things happen, where you can lose your job, where people are out to get you, where where you don't have any insecurity, where your income is set in stone, where where all these different things happen? Is that something that's exciting for you? And there are people that this works for, and there are people that it just doesn't. And my advice is really to get to a point where you kind of where you're doing things in the way you want, in the way that makes you happy. And you might ask, do I have a negative view of all this? And no, actually have a lot of respect for people that are able to get through all this. I have a lot of respect for people that are able to go into law firms and stay there for a long time and get advanced and learn the rules and things. I have a lot of respect for that, but I also feel that for the majority of people, your whole goal of your career should be to get training, like your first 5 years, or to get training in something, and then to develop your own business. So you need to have a business, and the business is basically getting clients and doing that sort of thing. And if you don't, or starting your own firm, and people do it in all sorts of practice areas. I mean, I've seen litigators become like in major U.S. law firms, open trust in estates practices and become successful. I've seen so many people do it in personal injury, and the level of success is astonishing. And I've seen so many people reach just really, really great heights in this profession and be happy. But most of the people that are happy have, for some way, have gotten to the point of self-determination, where they feel like they have control over their careers and their lives. And I really can't emphasize that enough. And I like what I do, because this is something that worked for me as a profession. I do what I do because I felt like when I was in this law firm and I was seeing like 7 partners losing their job, I thought that was very, very scary. And it was kind of interesting. The first firm I was at, Quinn Emanuel, was a law firm, and back then, we're talking about almost 30 years ago. But the firm had so incredible amounts of work that there was no reason that they didn't even want people bringing in business. They just needed people to do the work. Even partner, they would make people partner just because they need people to do all the work. And so I was like, this firm, I could work really, really hard here, might or might not make partner. And probably could have made partner easily there, because they were, but I mean, not easily, but I mean, over several years, I mean, it's definitely doable. But I saw that, I would never have my own business if I went there. I'd always be dependent on them for work, and I would never be able to develop my own book of business. And therefore, my job would always be at risk. And I was right. What happened at that firm is all these people did make partner without business, but eventually, like several years later, after that happened, then the law firm became more of, instead of just wanting people to do the work, they realized they didn't have to pay people just to do the work. They could pay people less, and they didn't have to be partners. And so all these partners started getting pushed out that had made partner just based in the business. And then I went to another firm where I thought I could develop business. And I saw what was happening to there with partners, and it was much more difficult for them to develop business because the billing rates were like 50% above what other firms in LA were charging, but our top firms. But anyway, to not get too far off point, the reason I do what I do and got into this, as opposed to still practicing law, was I saw that it would give me more control over my career and the results that I got. And I think that's a very important point to think about. Like, what are you going to be able to get control over your career? Are you going to be able to get control of your life, or is everything just going to be completely random for you? Are your results going to be are just random? You're going to depend on someone else? You're going to be dependent on the business or the law firm you're working and doing well? How is that? How are you looking out for your future and for your family and for your self-esteem and for your pride? And that's the thing I hate the most, is I just see all these people that get years in, and they're dependent, this cycle of dependency, and that can hurt you. I was working with this guy who's a partner in a large law firm in Philadelphia, and he's been at this firm for like 20 years, or no, 17 years or something. And the whole time he's been there, he's been working for this one partner that has all these healthcare clients. And so but then this partner with all the healthcare clients is getting ready to retire, and getting close to that, and he's not gonna, he's just going to give the work probably to someone in another office to do, and not this guy. And the guy's like, what the hell? Like, I've been working for this guy my whole career, and now he's not going to give me the work, he's giving it to someone else. And that's scary, because then this guy's going to lose his job. And so I see people like that, and with no business and senior, like, what is he going to do? Who's going to pay him $700,000 a year without any business? I mean, so you get into this, situation a lot of times where when you're dependent on others, that can really hurt you. So what can you do? How can I think about my career in a way that takes me away from that dependency on one person or on one firm or on all these different things? Like, what can I do to have a life that I'm in control of? I apologize for just going into so much detail about this, but I do feel like it's extremely important to go into a little bit more depth about this so you understand it. What But when I say you need to have control over your career and life, one of the reasons that I think that that's so important is because I every day I'm just running across people that do things. Like, one of the big things that people always, like, they look forward to doing. And this is scary to me too. And tell me, and when we get to the questions and answers, like, tell me what you think about this. But I see people all the time. They are in a law firm, and then they decide they want to do something, like they want to go in-house, they want to go teach in a law school, they want to go work for the government. And so they take these jobs, and what happens is most of the time when people go in-house, not all the time, but I would say at least 50% of the time, the jobs don't last more than a couple of years, and then the person is out of a job. And then when they're out of a job, they typically don't have a job right away. So they might have been working in a law firm for 6 years, and then they went in-house. They worked there for 2 years, and then they lost their job. And the only reason people lose their jobs a lot inside of uh, in-house is because companies merge, companies downsize. Apple, and you heard about Amazon, all these places laying people off. This is what happens. So they lay people off, or they might they might bring in a new general counsel, and he brings in his, or she brings in her own legal department, gets really, so all these different things happen. So people go in house and they lose their jobs and they're unemployed, and they're like, what am I going to do? And I was working with a guy recently, I got a job, and he'd been unemployed for 2 years. Then people, in addition to losing their jobs, they will the same thing will happen. People go into the government, and all these government, thousands and tens of thousands of people in the government lost their job this year. Have been this Doge efficiency thing came. I mean, so all these people losing their jobs and not having employment security, people going into work in law firm and law schools, and trying to become a professor and not getting tenure and leaving. So all these things about not having any form of employment security, not having recurring work. And the thing that most attorneys don't realize that's the scariest is that a job of an attorney, like once you start practicing law, it's almost like being like a fish. Like, a fish has to be in water. Like, you have to continually be in water, or the fish dies. And if you take the fish out of the water for too long, I mean, it dies. And so it's the same thing with careers. Like, if you lose access to work, and you don't have consistent work coming in, then your career is over. So that's what happens when people go in-house. That's what happens a lot of times when people lose their jobs when they're too senior. That's what happens when people are not needed or whatever by their firm, or when they make a mistake, so they lose access to work in their careers. And it's crazy, because I see it all the time. You could be 20 years out, you could be 5 years out, you could be 1 year out, you could be an example of losing access to work would just be if you're a corporate attorney, and all of a sudden the market turns, and you could lose access to work. I've seen people lose their jobs like 3, 6 months in as a new attorney, and lose access to work, and not being able to get other jobs. I mean, some people, all this stuff happens. And so you never want to lose access to work. You always want to have access to work. So thinking about your career in a way, like, how do I have the most access to work? And so that means putting yourself in a situation where you're really, really needed and you're getting along with people and they're always going to give you work. That's one thing. Or in a market where that's the case, or in a firm where that's the case, or getting your own business and having lots and lots of clients. And then you never lose access to work. And so the feeling of of self-empowerment and doing better and having control over your life and your career only happens when you are able to take control of the conditions and making sure that you have a long-term access to different types of work. And so the crystal meth attorney, so she's actually interesting. So I stayed in touch with her, and of course, someone that went to, well, one of three really good Ivy League law schools. I'm not tell you which one. She ended up starting a very successful like criminal defense attorney firm. Was representing people who were selling drugs and all sorts of things, and just really turned her life around and has her own firm, and the firm's got several attorneys working for her, and she just had horrible things happen to her. I mean, she literally lived on the streets of Los Angeles, and now she's helping people that have been sexually abused, sue people, crime. She's very well off financially, and very, very happy. And she just she put herself into a situation where she was happier. And the thing is that and that's just one example. There's so many like stories of people that I know of just having like these incredible careers and just wonderful things happening to them when they were able to set themselves up and put themselves in a position where either they were around people that looked out for them and they had some sort of and they did something, or they were they were able to get clients. And most of the time the people that end up doing well are people that figure out how to get their own clients, how to build, to create to create a profession for themselves instead of doing things in an average way. I want to make a couple other quick points. I mean, a little talking on a tangent today, and I normally don't really do this, but I wanted to make a couple other quick points that I think are that are extremely important. And if you understand what I'm about ready to talk about, I think you will have a far more like dramatically better and more profound life and career if you do what I'm going to talk about next. So when you're an employee, you're going to a law firm and you're essentially saying, or any employer, and you're essentially saying, hey, I'm here to do this job for you in exchange for getting paid. And so that's how a lot of people think about their jobs. They think, I'm here just to get paid a certain amount, and I will do work as hard as I can for that money, or whatever. I will do what you ask me to do. And then I will, if you don't pay me enough, I'll go to another place. If I don't like your remote work policy, I'll go to another place. If I don't feel like I'm getting the kind of responsibility, so people will treat every employer they go, every place they go to, and they will think of themselves as an employee. And so the biggest breakthrough in like people's careers and their lives for that matter come when they're no longer looking at their jobs like an employee, and they're looking at what they do in a way that just in a way where they're just going to give it everything that they got. So what does that mean? So, if you're a litigator, you're going to do, whatever you're interested in. You're going to spend your free time, even create free time to learn more about a certain practice area, issue or practice area. You're going to try to write papers and give presentations. You're going to join committees. You're going to do, you're going to get out there. You're going to network with other people. You're going to build a brand for yourself doing something. You're going to look at yourself and try to be the best you can at, whatever it is you're doing, and whatever your practice area is. And that's going to be your goal. And you're going to try to network there. You're going to try to talk to people there. You're going to become interested in it. You're going to become passionate about whatever your subject matter is. You're going to read articles and forward them to people you're working with you think are interesting. You're going to try to give presentation, do all these sorts of things. You're going to become someone that's out there contributing and adding value, and someone that's seen as, you want to be seen as an expert and someone that cares about something, as opposed to just being an employee. Because employees are just, you give them work to do, they do the work. But people that are out there that are, making things happen and are seen, and they're seen because they're enthusiastic about what they're doing. I'm enthusiastic about what I'm doing. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking to you right now or writing and doing the things that I do and running this company and hiring recruiters and training recruiters. I mean, everything that I do is because I have a passion for something, and the average recruiter just recruits. But someone that rises above that has more passion than the next person. They write about it, they speak about it, they love it, they eat, breathe, and sleep it. And so you have to try to put yourself in a position of being someone that looks like the most enthusiastic, the most interested, the most engaged, and whatever it is your practice area is, and whatever it is you're doing in your profession. You need to look more, like you're just all in. And very few people are all in because they think that they're only giving a part of themselves to that they have to give their work and things to an employer, as opposed to really being more than just an employee. They look at themselves as an employee, and that the work is a means to an end. They're getting paid and stuff, and that's not a life. A life is only when you have enthusiasm for something, and when your heart and soul is in it, and when you're like that, like, people are always going to want to give you work. They're always going to want to hire you, and that's what you need to be. You need to be someone that's like a beacon, and like someone that's enthusiastic, and someone that loves what they do, and someone that is a force in this, instead of being someone that's just kind of pushed down and the same as everyone else. Because very few people have that spark, and that's what that's really the most important thing. So, and not allowing others to control your level of enthusiasm. Like, instead of saying, I'm gonna become a partner or whatever in this law firm, and that's my goal. You're gonna say, I'm gonna become like the best real estate leasing attorney that's ever existed in Los Angeles, and I'm gonna write about it. I'm gonna give talks about it, and I'm gonna network with people and talk about. I'm gonna pass around when I learn a new leasing idea. I'm gonna talk to other people. You just become like someone that's out there and seen and enthusiastic, and that's something that very, very few people do. And the people that do that are the happiest, and the people that do that have the best careers. So, not thinking of yourself as an employee, thinking of yourself as a business owner, and like an authority in your practice here, and taking pride in what you do. If you can do that, then your whole life and your career is going to change. And I really wish that people did that, because 95%, maybe more, 95% of most attorneys are not like all in, and they don't look at themselves as like trying to be the best they possibly can. They don't have like goals to back up, like, why they're doing something, and they don't think about their careers in a way that they're trying to give their clients these incredible results, and they're trying to become the best at what they're doing, and they try to become like this person that's out there that's seen and doing something, as opposed to someone that's just getting pushed down. Because the negative things that I talked about today are what happened to employees, and they are why people die early, like I talked about. They're why people resort to crime. The guy that murdered his wife threw her off a cruise ship to get insurance money. The guy that committed the financial crimes got fired from his firm because he was, thought he could find a cool way to make money. So people commit crimes. They die early. They're unhappy. They use alcohol and drugs and things because they feel like they're controlled, and they feel like they have no options, and they feel like they're hemmed in by negative forces, and because they're employees. And so, stop thinking of yourself as an employee. The way to look at your career too, by the way, that I think is the most important, is you look at your career when you're early, when you're a young attorney. And I keep coming back to this, is someone is training you. So, someone is training you, great. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You respect your teachers. You respect whoever's giving you work to do. You are not there for the money. You're there to get the best training possible. and you leave firms for better training, not necessarily for more money. I mean, money is one thing, but don't think of yourself as an employee. Think of yourself as someone who's getting skills that they can use for the rest of their life. So you look at anybody that's giving you work is respected. You treat them like a client. You're nice to them. You're appreciative that they're giving you work because, again, work is like a fish needing water, and you never want to run out of work. So you're nice to everyone who's giving you work. You do the best work you can, but you just develop like some sort of passion and brand for what you're doing. And I wish people would do that, because people go into everything just with a wrong idea, and because of that, like nothing happens. I mean, very, very few people have goals of being like the best person they can be, of having the best person in their practice area, the person that provides the most value, the person that there's the go-to person for something, the person that writes the most, that speaks the most. Like no one has those sorts of values. The values that they have are just they just treat themselves like an employee. Like I'm going to build 2,200 hours so I can get a bonus, not that I'm going to learn all this stuff about this practice area that I can this year. I'm going to write 3 papers. I'm going to, network with these people and send my, paper to some general counsels so they can, I mean, people don't think that way. They think in a negative way that's very limiting, think of themselves as employees. And because they're employees, they just see this lack of opportunity, and they feel angry and they're bitter. And that's why most attorneys aren't as happy. But imagine if you were getting clients and people were interested in you, and you were getting people were coming to you for advice because of the information that you were providing them and respecting you, and you were getting clients calling you wanting to hire you and all this sorts of stuff. Then suddenly, you would feel much differently about your career. You feel much better about your career when you're in control and where you're getting respect and where you're not getting pushed down. So my hope for you is that you're able to move beyond this whole condition of feeling pushed down, dependent, exploited, people not respecting you, not feeling happy, not, all these sorts of things, not feeling pride in your career, ashamed, like worried that you're not doing enough. Like, I mean, you haven't done enough, like suicidal, whatever. I mean, all these sorts of things are just not, don't need to happen. And the reason that they happen is typically because people never move from this idea of being an employee to someone who's in charge of their life and their career and their profession, and has options and has access to work. And so very few people ever move past that to be that kind of person. And so think about that, because the rewards are far greater when you have control over your career and life than they are when you're not. And I feel kind of passionate about this because I've seen what happens to people, and I don't like that most attorneys are not that chipper and happy like they should be. They're for the most part, a lot of them are very upset and stressed, and it's just what the profession is. But people that are able to take control over everything and become these beacons and respected and in control of the work that they get and their career are happy. And those are the people that are happy. And that's what you should aspire to. You can do it in a large law firm, you can do it in a small law firm, you can do it on your own, you can do it in different legal markets, all sorts of things. So, one other thing too, I think is, since then we'll take a quick break, we'll take questions. It's so interesting to me, but in a lot of these, when you're in a major city, like if you're an attorney, it's almost like, okay, the person can't be that successful. And if you're, and there's tons of attorneys, like everyone's an attorney. It doesn't, most like upper middle class suburbs. I mean, if you go on any street, there's going to be several attorneys. I mean, they're just everywhere. But when you go into a lot of times like smaller markets, attorneys are, it's just different. Like, you go into a very small market, there might only be you're in a town of like 5,000 people or something, there might only be like 3 attorneys there. I mean, or maybe a few more than that, but very few attorneys. And but when you go into these small markets where there's just not a lot of attorneys, and the attorneys there might have their own firm, that'd be a small firm, and they might be with a couple of attorneys. Those sorts of attorneys are actually, it's very interesting. I mean, they're usually very happy. Because I think that they're kind of sought out in that little community for whatever they do. They have enough work to do. They're respected. They don't feel torn down by everyone around them. And so, you go into these smaller markets, people are actually often much happier. They don't feel like they're competing at the same level that you are in the major markets, and they're happier. And and it used to be people got out of school and you got your law degree and you took that and passed the bar, and then you took that and just set up your own little firm. That's how people used to work. And it wasn't until the 1950s with Cravath that large law firms started developing. And then when large law firms started developing, like what Cravath did, is they would hire people back then, like out of Harvard Law School, maybe in the 1960s or 50s for 25,000 a year, which would probably be like, equivalent of 250 to 300 now. And they would hire these people, but they would bring them in and they would work them very hard, and then they would send them to work with their clients like IBM and things. And so they would be kind of people that would continually refer work back to them. And but they didn't have enough opportunities for people to be partner. And then firms developed that way because companies in the U.S. developed and became larger companies after World War II, and so they needed larger law firms, and so the whole law firms thing changed. But prior to that, we're talking the 1950s. I mean, being a attorney was something that didn't have all these connotations because people essentially were their own business people. When they graduated from law school, they would take their set up a practice somewhere. And but when the law became industrialized and like a company and people started becoming employees, then everything changed. So I think a lot of getting back to being happy as an attorney is how do you put yourself in a position where you're in control of your career and you're not an employee. And if you're going to work for the government, if you're going to work for for the in-house, or if you're whatever you're doing, or a law firm, you don't have your own clients, you're always going to be an employee. All right, well, let's take a quick break, and then when I come back, I will take questions. I'll take questions about this or anything you have questions about. I love questions each week because I think it can give you a lot more clarity on any issues that you're facing, regardless of whether it's about this or whatever pure questions you have. And also, questions are anonymous. So, like, if you ask a question, I'm not going to show your name. And if it looks like there's any identifying details in your questions, I'll make sure to remove them. And if you ask questions, it's very helpful for people that are on the call. And the reason it's helpful is because those people that may people that are on the call, but also people that come later, because I do transcribe the questions, and I think to put on our website somewhere so people can see the answers to them. And there are most of the questions you may ask are things that other people in the future will have. So if you ask a certain type of question, you may 10 years from now, I mean, 5,000 people or 10,000 or 20,000 people may read the response to that, and it will help them. It'll help people in their career. So you really are doing a service to the legal community if you're asking questions. And the only reason that I'm uniquely qualified to do this, I've been doing nothing but this for 25 years. So I have a good understanding of it. And anybody that was doing what I did for 25 years did too. So anyway, we'll take a quick break, and then when I come back, we will do questions. Thanks. We'll speed like a minute, like 1 or 2 minutes. All right, let's get started here. Questions. Right. And I really like this topic. The major thing that we covered today. And the idea of like, what awaits you if you keep this psychology of being an employee. Like, how does that work? Is that how does that work for you? Is that something that you know, uh, is that going to make your life better? I had something happen years ago, and I should have in retrospect I I I I, I didn't do it, but I should have. There was a very successful trust and estates attorney in Costa Mesa, California, and the guy was literally like 87 years old, and but he had a very successful practice. He was there, but not completely. Like he's very slow, and he was making, well over, like $1.3 million or something a year with this small practice that was just him and some paralegals, and so he had contacted me to help him uh, take his practice and give it to another, or, basically sell it to another law firm. And so I went and I met with him and, just drove out to Costa Mesa, which is not fun, Valley travel. But I went and I met with him and I spent a lot of time with him and talked to him about all this. And then after doing that, he's like, I think that you would be a great person to take over this law firm for me. And I was like, I just kind of went along with it, even though I mean I had BCG and a recruiting firm and everything, but it was yeah, and I went along with it, and it got very, very close to him. I was going to have a staff meeting, so I was taking over this law firm, and I was thinking, how would I work in this law firm, and what would I sell it? What would I do? And but I didn't do it. But what struck me about that is when I'm bringing this up to you right now is this guy was literally like in his 80s and had his own law firm and was making very good money for having a solo practice. And not only that, but there were just all these clients, like thousands of them that, this business was just going to throw off money for forever. I mean, so he could have left it to his kids and had another thing to do it. So why am I bringing this up? The reason I'm bringing this up is because it's this guy went and he sold his practice to another firm and he had to, worked there for a while and he was very happy. He took vacations to Hawaii several times a year, had a house in Mexico. They got great life, and he had his own firm, and he had control over everything. And he just built this life for himself with this business. And so but you don't see attorneys that worked in large law firms in their 70s and 80s still there or you can have when you have control over your career and your life like that. I mean, everything. I mean, it's a great thing, and that guy. I just remember how happy he was, and how and he gave a lot of money to his church and to all these things. Keeping his career going. And if he had worked for someone else and had never stepped up and had his own practice like that, I don't think any of that would ever happen. So that was one of the things that was very interesting to me about that. And I see people like that all the time. I see, the most of what I see are people that are employees, and because they're employees, they're unhappy. Don't get the work they want. They don't get paid what they want. They don't. They get laid off. They lose their jobs. They upset someone. So moving from this whole idea of being in control of your careers to being an employee, because all these things. I mean, this is just such a serious topic. I mean, it's really talk about it for forever. I probably should have a. But the point is that most attorneys are very, very unhappy because they're employees, and even partners in major law firms with huge books of business are employees. I mean, everybody's an employee. But what is your mindset? Like, can you move from being something else other than an employee? Because if you're an employee, I think it's all this unhappiness and depression and just feeling put down and abused and all these things are what you get instead of thinking about yourself the other way. And I know I've said this about 15 different ways and times, but it's one of the most important topics there is in the legal profession because again, the majority of lawyers are unhappy, high levels of suicide, lots of most, huge levels of alcoholism and drug issues, major depression, bad marriages, higher levels of divorce, like uh, cancers and sicknesses and heart attacks and all these things that I don't think affect other people the same way because I see a hell of a lot more of it than among attorneys than I see of other people, and I think a lot of this just it's all based on your psychology, and sometimes just your psychology. Listening to what I'm saying is positive. I mean, but I'm making one point, move from being employed to something else. But you can mess with your psychology in all sorts of different ways. So you can go to self-improvement seminars. You can get involved in your religion. You can do all these, different things, to do it. You can read nonfiction, self-empowering books. You can listen to tapes. You can listen to self-hypnosis. Like, and you can listen to self-hypnosis and like do a search on YouTube for, how to be positive or something. And you can listen to something with your headphones on that'll help you go to sleep being positive. And there's all these different things that you can do to work in your psychology, but your psychology is like the most important thing. And that's something that happens to so many people is they just lose their complete their enthusiasm for life and for work and they're unhappy. You don't have to be, you just have to know how to approach things differently. Okay, how can I use my litigation background to transfer into policy or legislative work? Yeah, so that's a good question. It's not really that difficult to do. This is something that attorneys do all the time. So if you want to work into policy or legislative work, you can find work at this, municipal, municipal, state and federal level. So there's all sorts of ways you can do that. So where are you in terms of how do you find this policy or legislative work? You would just you would do searches for different types of jobs and involve that. You don't have to be an attorney to do policy or legislative work. A lot of times there could be it could be just a matter, but you just need to get involved in it. You need to find other people that are doing it, and that shouldn't be that difficult. I mean, obviously, most attorneys are involved in policy and legislative work, in states, and I mean, there's a high proportion of attorneys that do it. So, looking at government sites and stuff. Okay, next question. What's the best way to choose a legal practice area before graduation if I'm unsure what fits me? Well, there's practice areas really aren't that difficult. The differences of them, you typically will have, transactional. Talking about this before, and litigation. Those are kind of your two practice areas. So transactional could be real estate, could be corporate, it could be things along those lines. And then litigation could be commercial litigation, it could be personal injury, it could be whatever. But how do you choose the practice area that's good for you? Well, basically the way to think about practice areas, there's a couple different ways to think about them. So this is actually a very interesting point. So I hope everyone pays attention to this because this will make hopefully will explain things to you in a way that you've never seen before. So this a good question you're asking right now. This will help. Okay, so there's really two types of practice areas. Like I said, there's transactional practice areas, and then there's litigation practice areas. So people that do well in transactional practice areas tend to like to see the world as black and white. They don't like it when you give them theories and things. They tend to look at things and say, this is this and this is that. And there's nothing wrong with thinking that way. But that's how these people are, and they have a lot of value. People that are transactional tend to be people that would probably do very well in taking classes in a business school, like if they went to business school or something. People that are transactional tend to gravitate towards math and science and those sorts of things. You typically will learn if that's like something that you could be, that most people by the time they're 10, they generally will like reading and writing a lot, or they'll like doing puzzles and math and things a lot. Those are just two different types of people. Some people are both, but most people are one or the other. They have it's either right brain or left brain. So are you a transactional type of person? What do you that means that math and science and things like that are what and goes for reading and writing. And so people that are good at litigation are, people that would be good at litigation are people that are, would gravitate towards that. They like reading, they like writing, they like arguing, they like talking. Math and science people might prefer to do like a math problem. And these are just different types of people. So the biggest mistake that people make oftentimes is that someone that's very like litigation and, interested in reading and writing stuff would not probably be the best fit for most transactional practice areas. So that's just something to think about. So what is it that your skill set is in? Now, this is a big thing, and this is something that law schools don't teach you, but I'm going to teach you right now, and most people don't even realize. So when a doctor graduates, or when a doctor gets a residency, so when a doctor gets a residency, essentially what happens is the best doctors, and it's the same thing happens in the legal profession, but the best doctors are, with the highest aptitude, are sent to, will compete for, heart surgery, whatever, heart surgery, her surgery, brain surgery, whatever, brain surgery. These are with the highest aptitude people go, but that, things like that. I mean, actually, they do dermatology too, but that's for a whole different reason, for lifestyle and income and stuff. But the highest aptitude people go into those things, and the idea of that is that consequences, highest consequences. So you go highest consequence areas. What does that mean? That just means that if the person makes a mistake as a brain surgeon, the person dies. And the best that so the people's highest aptitude and the least aptitude, and I'm not gonna trying to say mean things about doctors, but I'm just going to tell you just kind of how it works. We'll go into things like whatever. What's the example? Well, psychiatry is one. Psychiatry. We'll go into what is the X-ray doctor called? She's an X-ray doctor. I don't, or radiology, things like that. So a radiologist, a sleep doctor, so it's the idea meaning the least aptitude, like someone that, if they make a mistake as a radiologist, takes an X-ray and tells the doctor it looks like something, the doctor is ultimately the one that's making a decision. So if a radiologist takes someone's lung and X-rays it and shows it to the the lung doctor or whatever, then the lung doctor is the one that's ultimately going to be responsible. So the radiologist is very low consequence. Sleep doctor, very low consequence. Psychiatrist, pretty low consequence too. They're just evaluating people and drugs and things. So at least aptitude. So when the people that have the most aptitude in the law, and that are driven into the highest consequence things. So and those practice areas are going to be like securities, securities, example, M&A, M&A, could be, I don't know, whatever. I mean, there's all sorts of high consequence transactional practice areas. And then low consequence, just to give you like trust in the states, a good example. But these types of things are typically working for, giant companies, tens of millions of, hundreds of millions or billions at stake, et cetera. And so those are going to be, with the largest firms, most of the time, largest firms, et cetera. So that would be kind of that. And I'll give you some examples, some more examples. And this is a very interesting point. It will help you kind of shape and see what's happening to your career and how whatever law school you went to is funneling in different things. And so, might be residential, closure, real estate closure, closing, something like that. And then litigation, your highest consequences would be like, could be like IP litigation, for, giant, giant patent industry, patent billions of dollars, company survival, company existence on the line, existence on the line, something like that, or commercial litigation, and commercial litigation, where hundreds of millions of dollars, at issue, or so those sorts of things. They're just hundreds of millions. So you have those things, and then your low consequence might be like insurance, defense, auto accident. For instance, auto accident. So that's kind of how that works. So just the point I'm making, just I hope, and I want to make sure this makes sense for everybody. So the lawyers that go to the best law schools, that do the best of the best law schools, are typically going to find themselves interviewing with and hired with in high consequence things in whatever their practice area is. So if you're very good at math and science and you get a job as a corporate attorney and you went to the top of your class at Columbia Law School, you will get a job in a major New York law firm doing securities, M&A, or something like that. And that's very high consequence, because if those attorneys make a mistake or something, their clients could lose hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. If you go to Columbia Law School, or if you don't go to Columbia Law School, if you go to Pace Law School and you're in the bottom of your class, maybe you can get a job doing residential real estate closing, which is still good. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but the consequences aren't going to be as high. So you're going to be filtered. So attorneys, they don't understand kind of what's going on in the background, but there's a filtering system in the background that is going to filter you into to one of these different things. They'll filter you into, you'll typically whatever's happening, you should make sure that you're filtered into whatever is appropriate. So you interview with 20 firms, you get an offer for to be a corporate attorney at one, and you get another to be a litigator, and you're a person that loves reading and writing. Well, then you should take the litigation one, because you're going to do better. People do better when they go into practice areas that make the use of either their transactional skills, or the transactional aptitude, or their litigation and reading and writing aptitude. So you do that, and then when you come out, you typically will try to, if you're going into a practice area, you typically want to get the best possible training. You want to go someplace where you're getting as high as consequence as possible, because if you get trained in high consequence areas, that's going to make you a better attorney. The best attorneys work on the highest paid attorneys, the highest paid firms work on the highest consequence matters. So sometimes somebody may think, and also, typically largest cities and firms is what you have to understand, largest cities and firms. And so everything is about getting access to the highest consequences. And, an example would be too, in transactional, trust and estates could be low consequence, with small clients, but with, major clients, something else entirely, completely different. So, so that's something just to kind of keep. Sorry, I don't write this down. Put it there. That's something to keep in mind. That true, you low consequence, high consequence. But that's really how to think about practice areas and the types of firms you should be in, and also your career. So I see people all the time, like I was talking to some guy this morning. He's doing insurance defense, meaning auto accidents, but he wants to move into higher consequence work, doing commercial litigation. And I'm working with him. He's a partner in a well-known insurance defense firm, and I'm helping him do that. So he wants to move into higher consequence. So the residential real estate might try to do high consequence, but your career is often is going to be defined by the consequences of the work you do. And to be able to move into higher consequence work means working in larger firms and working on more practice areas that are likely to be some will be more consequential than the others. Just because interestingly, usually on these things, people a lot of people seem interested in this topic today. So I'm just kind of I'll just show you guys a couple more things or and girls, sorry, about these different consequential areas and kind of how to work that. Um, so you have all these different practice areas, and you can see the practice areas on BCG, I guess, when you go to the website. But every practice area is going to be like different consequences. And so, you can see here you have but first of all, you have all these different litigation practice areas and insurance and all these different things that people can do, related to that are litigation related, and you have all these that are not litigation. But bankruptcy has, you'll have consumer credit. That's not as high consequence. And you have higher consequence, so there's that. And the construction, these are different, levels of consequence. Corporate, same thing. You have like, huge different differentials. And so all of any practice area you go into, the more consequences there are, often the more money you can make. So if you do like mass tort, you can make more money than, lower consequence matters. And so you need to really find a place and something that you're comfortable with. And typically, like the best attorneys are not, don't go into family law. Or they don't go in insurance defense. The best ones that are transaction would go into like project finance, as opposed to, So these are all just kind of things to think about. But the point being is that the higher consequence matters that you go into. Like if you try to get in to do the most important work, you can make more money, which is, I think, the goal of a lot of people. But at the same time, you can get larger clients, and the more important of an attorney that you essentially are. So the heart surgeon thinks they're obviously far more important than the radiologist, even though they both went to medical school. The orthopedic surgeon thinks that they're much more important than the psychiatrist. So every profession has different things that the highest and lowest aptitude people go into, and where the most consequences are. So, what are the consequences of the work you do? And they don't, and you may not want high consequence work, but some people do. And so the attorneys that are this invisible system kind of exist to um, uh, um, in front of, that filters people into this, and you often don't realize why it's happening. And a lot of times, a big mistake that people make is, someone that's very transactional bent, has those skills naturally, goes into litigation. They think, oh, well, I don't like practicing law. It's too contentious. I hate all this writing back and forth, and they're just in the wrong practice area. Anyway, it's interesting to me. Sorry. Let me see. Okay, let me see here. If you were in front of all the people currently in law school, would this be one of the most important things you want them to know and to focus on as they start their careers? To focus on learning what they're passionate about and eventually developing their own brand or business related to their expertise. And what would you say? Yeah, so I think that the most important thing for like any attorney, like you go into law school and people will figure it out. They will learn how to study, they will learn how to get the right grades, and whatever, they will do the best they can. But when you go to law, when people come out of law school, the most important thing for people to do really is to, everyone's going to have experiences, but and they're going to start their career and they're going to have experiences. What I see, and it's kind of interesting, and this is something that probably may have happened to the majority of people, a lot of people. One thing I noticed, and it's very common for people, they come out of um, if someone comes out of like a disadvantaged background, a lot of times, like, and why do I say disadvantage? I say disadvantage because it doesn't really matter, what their race is, or, it's just if they come out of like a working class type of background, they will often come out of law school, and they won't have models and and people to follow, and they will think of their job just like a job, and that they and not like they'll think about it like a working class type way. If I'm going here, I'm going to get paid. I resent the company, taking advantage of me, like all this sort of stuff. They'll go to and they will have these very short-lived experiences in law firms where they'll leave after a year, or they just won't take it seriously, and they just won't have a good experience. And so, all these things will happen. And so, uh, and then their career's over. So my advice, if I was coming out of law school right now and talking to people in law school, I would tell people two things. The first is I would try to first of all, choose the right practice area. So you would do transactional litigation. And then I would say try to get into the highest consequence practice area that you can get into and work. So it doesn't matter if it's whatever it's in transactional or litigation, get in the most highest consequence work. And then I would also say stay 5 years, like at least 5 years, because you need to stay wherever, and then start thinking like then start thinking like a business owner. So if you come out of law school, so my advice to people coming out of law school would be, the first thing is to get into the most high consequence practice area. First of all, transactional litigation, you have to choose the right one. And if you're unhappy as a litigator, you might just be in just the work, and you think it's stupid and meaningless. Might just should be a transactional, but choose the right one. And then the next one would be, get into highest consequence work possible. And then stay at least 5 years. And this is the thing that people don't realize. Like, why do I say 5 years? Because you don't learn how to be an attorney in any practice area. It takes 5 years. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you can learn trademark law probably a little bit faster than that, but in some other practice areas. But in general, it takes about 5 years. So you want to get 5 years of training, and you don't want to think about yourself as an employee your first 5 years. You want to think about yourself as a student and learning from people and appreciating the work that you're getting. And so that's what I would encourage people to do. Like if you stay 5 years, you know how to be an attorney, you know what you're doing. And then you have that skill. And then it's up to you if you want to develop your own business around and continue practicing law. It's up to you if you want to bring in clients. It's up to you if you want to go in house or whatever. But you need 5 years to learn something, and that's a mistake that most people make, is they don't commit. They think of themselves like an employee, and that would be, I think, my main piece of advice. Okay, how important is it to get law review or journal experience for post-graduation job prospects? So most law firms don't care about you being in a journal. I mean, there's lots of journals out there. Being in a journal, if you work in the journal, it can help you, with writing and doing tight writing and doing, academic and learning. I mean, it can help you. Same thing with law review. I mean, I was just amazed at like the level of detail and how smart people are in law review. I was on law review, but it's important. So law review is important. So if you get law review on your resume, then it's good. Different schools will allow people on law review different ways. You can write on, a lot of schools it's grades, others it's diversity versus, I mean, there's all these different ways. But yeah, getting on law review is extremely important. And I would say your grades are important, and then probably the next most important thing would be your getting a law review, and that's extremely important. It's more important than moot court and all that stuff. It's just law review just looks good. The only other thing I would say is if you're in law, this is a second law student question, so I'll just answer it. But the one of the reasons you want as a law student, the most important things as a law student is to try to get into um, make sure you get jobs working in law firms during the summer. So you can get one your first year, that's great. If you get one your second year is extremely important, because if you don't get a job working in a law firm your second year, then it becomes that much harder when you graduate. So do whatever you can to get a job during your second summer and work as hard as you can, do the best work you possibly can. And I would say you go to work there even if it's free, because even if you're doing it for free, say I will work here for free because you lose $10,000 in income, but that $10,000 in income that you lost, even if you're doing it for free, is going to open so many doors for you. Like you'll be much more employable than if you didn't. So it's just very important. I mean, I've seen people go to like Ivy League law schools and then for whatever reason not get a summer associate. I saw this guy who went to Harvard Law School and he didn't get a job as a summer associate. I don't know what happened, but it's a big law. Harvard's a big law school, and it's like been going down in the rankings because people aren't getting jobs out of there, and I mean just because it's such a big school. And but anyway, he didn't get a job this summer, and then he couldn't get a job as a third year in a law firm either because he didn't have a job as a summer associate. So he was trying to interview these big firms and get a job. So then finally the school was like, okay, well, you need to get a job after you graduate, and it's going to be hard for you to get a job without having worked in a law firm because law firms want to see you've worked in a law firm, hopefully done well. So he ended up taking a clerkship like in a state court in Maryland or something. Anyway, so yeah, so your most important thing for a law student is to honestly to get a to get a job to best grades you can, and then after grades, so I would say grades, then summer law firm jobs, not other jobs, law firm jobs. So summer law firm jobs, not not others. And then after summer law firm jobs, then it's then law review would be kind of that. That's important. All right. Okay, I'm just making sure. Okay. All right. This is a good question. Thank you for whoever asked this one. I like these kind of questions. Okay, thanks for the great presentation. I wish I had known earlier that associate firms are more competitors than friends. I lost my job yesterday because of another associate that I consider a friend. Question: as a junior attorney interested in family and immigration law, can I start my own practice? I haven't practiced in these areas. What are the steps to becoming a sole proprietor in California? Do you offer any mentorship opportunities? So, yeah, so that's a good point I think you made. That yes, most people, anybody that you're working with that in a law firm is typically going to be, at least at your level, an associate is going to be a competitor. So they're not necessarily going to want you to do well, even if they're acting like your friends. There are nice people that aren't like that, but you should assume that everyone really is pretty competitive and you need to be careful. So that means you need to be careful about what you talk about in your personal life. It means you need to be careful about what you let people know and about you. It means you need to be careful about showing any version of yourself that you wouldn't want other people talking about. So yeah, if you're interested in family and immigration law, it's very common for attorneys to start their own practices doing those practice areas. I mean, doing that without even having any experience doing it. So it's not something that is that difficult to learn. And you can typically family law in California. There's a Rudder Group treatise that will pretty much tell you how to do anything you want. Most things. I mean, you certainly need to learn a lot of things along the way, but it's not that difficult. And then how do you become a sole proprietor in California? Well, typically you just open your own firm. You could advertise, you build a website, put it online. You can, start trying to, get clients. So you can do it in immigration too, and family law. People are self-taught in that all the time. The only thing and anybody can open a practice. You don't necessarily need to have your own insurance, but you can have insurance. I mean, you can get malpractice insurance, or you don't need it. But to mentorship opportunities. So a lot of times the state bar will generally have young lawyers, people that are mentors for people in different practice areas, and so I would recommend to looking at that contacting the bar and see if there's mentors. There are people to mentor you in those practice areas will answer questions and that sort of thing. But I mean, it's not easy to open your own family and immigration law firm. I mean, but I've known plenty of people that have done it, and they've started literally without clients and been successful. Because if you get one good family law case, I mean, that can be you could be billing, divorce 20,000 a month for a while, and if you learn immigration and you develop an expertise doing that. People that develop an expertise in immigration oftentimes will have sort of a way to get work from people out of one nationality. So someone might be Indian and they, are very connected in the Indian community, and some people send them work or, whatever. I mean, different things like that. But yeah, you can learn how to do these practice areas. And there's also there's often a lot of there's a lot of uh, sometimes there's actually courses and things online or coaching groups and things that you can find if you search in different practice areas. Um, what career options should I consider if my current firm is harming my physical health from uh, constant overwork? Well, if you're in a job and you're constantly overworked and it's hurting your health, I mean, you have two choices. I mean, one choice is to try to cut back on your workload there and tell them what you're dealing with. That's one option, and to see what happens, or to find a position where you're not where you're not working as hard. The different options. So to avoid overwork, you have, same firm, you're working something out. You have, different firm, or you have different practice, um, or, so different firm, sometimes it's even, location, things like that. So you don't know if you're people that are in super demanding legal jobs, they don't necessarily, there's no reason that they have to stay in a super demanding legal job. You can always go, you can tell your firm you want less work, or you can't handle anymore, or you need time off, or you need help, or you can oftentimes look for another job. I had a guy recently that I was working with. He was making a lot of money. I think he was making $600,000 a year in New York, but he was working like all the time. Like he was working weekends. He was every weekend. He was getting home late. He was leaving the office late. I mean, leaving for the office early and just working, working, working. And so you had him, and then I had, and so I got him another job, but the other job paid like give much better hours, but was paying, I don't know, was paying like 450 or something, less. And he decided to stay where he was at, even though it was not good for him because he needed to keep making that amount of money. So you have that option. You can, you can move to smaller firms. You can sometimes move in locations, or sometimes move in practice settings. I mean, people will move different to practice settings for less work. So, or you could start your own firm. So you have all these different options. But, if it was me and I was in that situation, I would, and it was harming my physical health, I would probably try to find something, a different firm if you can. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm just looking at questions. All right. How can I stay motivated as a lawyer when I feel like I'm constantly under attack from clients, partners, and even coworkers? So yeah, so it's an interesting statement. That is difficult. Just some people that's too much for them, and they may not be able to handle it. If you think about like what's it like to be a politician, or what's it like to be a CEO of a company? Like people that are politicians are always going to be under attack from the other parties. They're going to be under attack from people of their own party. Even people are going to be trying to get their business, their job. People are going to be writing bad things about them, looking them for them to do something bad. But politicians thrive on that. Otherwise, I mean, I read the news every day, and I read five news stories about national events, and three of them are just attacking Trump. I mean, it's like that's what it's like to be a politician or a successful business person or successful lawyer. So you either need to be able to thrive under that or not. You can go to different types of practice settings, where you could work in house where you might not feel that way, or you could work in the government where you might not feel that way, or you could work in a smaller law firm. You could work in another practice area. Like, for example, you could set up your own trust and estates law firm. You're not going to be under attack from clients and people. If you have your own trust and estates firm, you could, set up your own personal injury firm. And yeah, it just depends on what you do. So, but if sometimes people are, there's two types of reactions. There's, people under stress. Some people get, mad or I'm sorry, they get sad, meaning they, sick, whatever, withdrawn, depressed, and other people get angry, and then they use that as like fuel to like push them forward. So fuel makes them more motivated and so forth. So you have that who are you? So if all this stuff is just making the stress of your job and the and that sort of thing is not something you like, and it doesn't keep you motivated, then you need to either change practice settings or change your reaction. Like, do you view this as these attacks as a way to get better and to push harder, or do you view them as something very, very negative? So yeah. Good. Next question. What are the psychological warning signs that my law firm job is doing long-term damage to my mental health? Well, I mean, I think people, will know, when when if you're in a position where your mental health is being damaged. I mean, it's, are you depressed, angry, withdrawn, all the, remember, touchy, I don't know what the word is. But I think you get the idea. So anybody that's in a position where the job's doing long-term damage to their mental health, you'll generally, however, psychology is to people should, you should notice it. I mean, you should, are you, I remember when I was practicing law, like for me, it was, stressful. Like I wasn't as happy when I got home with my wife and I was, fighting with her. I'd want to drink, like have beer, it's a Thursday night. I would definitely have some beers and smoke cigarettes a long time ago. Before going to bed. I mean, I was just, I got home, I would not be happy. I would be, suspicious. So, the other, I'm just not thinking like, clearly, and just not in a happy place. And then, that was a much different person than I was when I wasn't practicing. I guess but like one of the, it's kind of interesting for me, like one of the, I'm just making something here. One of the clearest things to me about how unhappy I was practicing law, and I think this just shows you, and I've never really thought about this, but I'll just tell the story right now. So you can look back at different points in your life and you can say, was I happy then? Or, did I like life? Was I enthusiastic about what the future was and everything like that? Like, when was I happy? And when I was practicing law, prior to going to law school, uh, I had been a contractor, and I'd actually, instead of going to law school, I thought I was going to be a contractor. I didn't even take the LSATs. I had mono, and then I finally took it in like March, and then by the time I applied to law schools, almost all the law schools were full, and by stroke of dumb luck, I ended up getting to law school. I didn't think I was going to be going to law school, and but I ended up going to law school and became an attorney. But before going, when I was in law school, I had this asphalt business, and I ran it in the summers when I was home from college, before I went to college, when I was home from law school. I even ran it like when I was clerking for this federal judge. And so I loved it. I was happy. I was excited. I was like making money. Like I was doing, like I was interacting with people. I was buying equipment and building things up and building a business and happy. And then I went to practice law, and it was like the exact opposite. I wasn't happy. I didn't love, it was the people. I didn't feel like I was accomplishing anything and all these different things. Now I knew how to fix my mind, but I knew that I was much happier doing something else. It's one reason why I also started doing this, because I'd be happier about that. So if you can look at back at different points in your life, and maybe you were like happy and you had better mental health, and now you're in this position, then maybe it doesn't make sense to continue doing what you're doing. If you can't get yourself in a position where you're going to be happy again. So I think that was always one of the things that I came back to too. Like, why am I unhappy doing this? And like, what's going to make me happy and what's going to make me feel fulfilled? So practicing law, I was just like in a bad psychological state. I didn't like it. And then I started doing this. And 6 months later, after I started doing this, I was a completely different person by every stretch of the imagination than I was when I was practicing law. So what are some great resources, books that you can give you insights on how to actually find good clients in a particular area, whether it's personal injury or intellectual property, or other than the obvious of taking clients from a law firm you're already working with, or network, or having a website as such. So clients are from a law firm you're already working with. I mean, people think they fantasize about that all the time, but why would a law firm you're only working with suddenly give work to some associate or something that's leaving? They just probably wouldn't. I mean, they do, but that's not something that you can do. Other things you have to, if you want to start your own law firm, to do something, you're typically, you need to figure out anytime you're starting a law firm, like what is the business that makes the most sense? Like who's most likely to hire me? So if you try to start your job as a solo practitioner doing intellectual property law, most companies that have intellectual property related work are going to try to, it's a lot of money involved. They're going to try to hire someone, that has a lot of experience doing it, or a firm that does. Personal injury, that was another type of thing. So personal injury, lots of attorneys become self-taught in that, and there are, if you search online, there's going to be courses to train personal injury attorneys how to get business. There'll be courses to teach people how to become trust and estates attorneys, how to get clients. There's all sorts of resources and courses out there. Plenty of people that are happy to take your money and teach you how to do all these different things. But ultimately, if you're trying to find clients, I mean, you talk about having a website. I mean, it's not just enough to have a website. Then you need to do social media to get clients, and you need to be good at that. Then you need to be good at how do you drive traffic to your website and get signups, and how do you optimize for all these, how do you get business doing all these different things? And so that's kind of that's in terms of how people typically get business. I mean, you need to learn how to do that. So other things too, people will do, different personal injury attorneys will specialize in things. I knew one guy that retired at the age of very young, like 45, and he'd done nothing but motorcycle accidents. He did it for 15 years, from the time he was like 30 to 45, and he made tons of money and retired. So there's all these different things you can do to try to get clients. But just remembering that, if you are trying to do, I talked earlier about consequences. So if you're trying to, consequences. So if you want to get clients, high consequence matters are going to go to larger firms and the best attorneys, and they're going to want They're going to want larger firms, but they're going to want people that are really good. They're not just going to hire you because you're out there. But the lower consequence things you can get a little bit more easily. So, but yeah, I mean, there's plenty of resources and how to get business and out there. I've written articles you can find if you search Google for articles and things and guides and things that I've done. But most people do not. You can start and get clients right off the bat doing personal injury. But most people, if you're trying to do like high consequence matters, like, you have to build contacts over like a period of time. So it's a good question. If you want to ask a follow-up uh, a question to that, I mean, it's a good question. I'm happy to answer it. Okay, let's see. Next question. Okay, what would you advise a junior attorney who was wrongly blamed um, for the what would you advise a junior attorney who was wrongly blamed for the negligence of a senior attorney assigned to a case, and the junior attorney was quietly offloaded off of the firm? Yeah, I mean, so that kind of stuff, can happen, and I'm sorry that that happened to you, and this is just kind of what happens. People will lose jobs for things like that a lot, and you could get in trouble. One of the things I will tell you though is most people, not all, but most people do want to be fair. So, if someone was unfair to you, that's not good, but most people do want to be fair. And then most people do if they're making money off you, they don't have a lot of incentive to you know fire you if they're making money. Or the most important thing being, if people like you and they trust you, then they're less likely to also fire you and that sort of thing. So people that feel like that are trusted and are liked, it's much harder to lose a job. So a lot of times people will lose jobs because they're not trusted or not liked. And so in every organization, there's people that are adverse to the organization, meaning they are you know people don't necessarily trust them, and they think and then there's people that aren't adverse to the organization but never say anything negative. So I've run across recently, for whatever reason, I've run across a lot of people in the entertainment industry that have been wrong. I don't know why I'm running across all. I don't know all why I'm running across all these people, but I've run across like a famous producer, a very well-known actor. I mean, it's these people that just happen to know, and they're people that have been wronged. And so one of them said something to me that I thought was very interesting the other night. He said, there are two types of people in Hollywood. There are those that sue, and then there are those that work. And I just thought that was interesting. So the idea being, if you ever sue somebody, then you stop working. Then you just make that's how you make your living. There are people like that. So you never try to go out if you sue people or you go after them, it can have devastating effects in your career. So if someone did something wrong to you, then you're then and my advice would be to just move on and forget about it, and just, this is the kind of thing that happens, and I wouldn't sue, but that's something that people do. So give me a second. Let's see. Don't sell the practitioners with smaller law firms to lower and maybe much lower caliber legal work than large law firms. Uh, and don't and most don't permit specialization. How can you ever uh, get hope to get quality clients paying $20,000 a month out of that situation? So yeah, so it doesn't, solo practitioners with a law firm lawyers don't always do the quality of the work that they do isn't necessarily always lower than large law firms. The reason that the quality is often lower is because uh, the the large law firms require like have a certain standard of work that they do, and it requires a lot of hours and it costs more money than a lot of times than small law firm lawyers will be able to then they can charge that their clients will pay. So if you're a small law firm and you're doing residential real estate closing or someone for someone, the person might not expect to pay more than $2,000 or $3,000, and that's just kind of what it is, and so you can't bill much more than that. So it doesn't mean, the work's not as good. It just means that. But one thing I would say about smaller law firms as well is it's for smaller law firms, the smaller the client, the more difficult it is to get paid. So smaller clients have smaller budgets. And so how do you get money out of them? And so you need to be able to get paid. So that's one of the most difficult things for a lot of individual lawyers, and trying to they need to get paid. And so if they don't feel like they can get paid, then they're it's more difficult. So I hope that answers your question. You said most don't permit specialization. How can you get clients paying $20,000 a month out of that situation? So what people will do is they'll either specialize in like one practice area. They could be doing one certain types of thing. They could be doing real estate closing. They could be leasing. They could be doing some sort of litigation or filing things. They could be doing working for. I mean, there's all sorts of different things you can do. So the goal of every attorney that works as a solo practice is typically to get clients that will pay like $20,000 a month or give them recurring revenue. But many times they can't, because if you're a smaller market, you can't. So you do the best you can, or you develop a lot of small clients. So I know one woman that developed an immigration law firm that was doing like at least 10 to $20 million a year. But these are all they were all small, because she calls them cases. They're all small. They're like 3,000, 10,000, that sort of thing. And but they add up. So yeah. So I hope that makes sense. I know I'm giving a lot of mumbling a little bit. I know. Let's see here. Representation next. I'm thinking about why you said the highest consequence practice areas will have the best training. These areas are the highest stress levels and contain all the 7 negative things you went over. These areas will pay the most, but you're also but also said making money is not the main goal. Most attorneys do. They have some fill. Can you please clarify? Yeah. So why do you want to go into the highest consequence practice area, highest consequence firms, and work for the largest firms when you start? The reason is because lawyers do have different types of the quality of the work that an attorney does is really the most important thing that the attorney offers. So what does that mean? So the quality of the work you do as a corporate transactional attorney will determine how well your client does in a transaction, how well protected that company is. Same thing with a real estate attorney, or the same thing with a commercial litigator, someone that's litigating cases. And so the higher when you go to the firms with the highest consequences, meaning say you go to I don't know, great firm like Gibson Dunn and Crutcher in New York. You go to work at Gibson Dunn, and you're working there, and you're working on behalf of one of the largest corporations in the world, and you're working with a very famous litigator who's giving you work to do and critiquing your work, and you're looking at their work, and you're working at this very, very high level on these things, and you're working lots and lots of hours where you're learning. First of all, you're surrounded by other very, very smart people. You're surrounded by people that have very high standards for the work that's required. You're surrounded by clients that have very, very high expectations, that are coming to this firm because they need the best in the world at whatever they're doing. You're getting exposed to that. You're talking, you're living this, 7 days a week or whenever you're at work, you're living all this, you're learning how to do good work, you're seeing what good work is, you're attacking attorneys that aren't as good as you in papers and things. And so you become a much, much better attorney when you get exposed to that. So if it was me, I mean, why you need to work in the best firm you can and get the best training possible when you're a young attorney, because then you will learn how to do these things. So it's like, are you going to be better off say you're always going to you're going to rise to the level of the people that you're around, and you will become a better attorney, and you will have a way to think better about things and become much more effective, and to have skills and ways of thinking that will last with you your entire career, to question things, to not make assumptions, to see how other smart people are thinking. All that will rub off on you, and those are huge. Gives you huge advantages because that's what happens. Attorneys that aren't as well trained and that don't know how to do good work are just eaten up alive. And companies will only hire, if you want to work with larger firms or whatever in the long run, I mean, they want the best people working for them. So you learn how to be a good attorney when you get when you get training in a law firm. You can't learn often how to be a really good attorney on your own. You need to learn the thinking process and how other attorneys, are thinking about things, and you need to learn that when you're younger, as opposed to older. So you'd want to put yourself in the places where there's the most consequences, where the most is the stake, where you're getting the best training when you're young. Nothing is it's extremely important, and a lot of people don't think about things that way. Okay. So, is the upshot of what you're saying today that if you don't have business development skills or are not interested in using them, then practicing law is not the employment avenue you should consider? No, of course not. So anybody, no, most attorneys are not interested in business development. Almost substantial majority. So they either work in the government, or they work in house, or they do other things, or they work in firms that give them work to do. So that's your choice. You can either get work from other people, or not. So can you be happy getting work from other people? Yes, of course you can. People are happy working for others all over the country. I mean, attorneys are. But my point is that if you want to have control over your career and be happy in the long run, then you're usually going to be much better off working, having your own business and having control over that than not. And that would be my recommendation. Yeah, and if anybody has more questions, I'm almost out of questions. I mean, there's a bunch more, but I've answered something similar to them, but I will try to make sure I'm answering everybody's question. Okay. Why are people in the legal field so bitter and toxic, especially at giant insurance defense firms? So, insurance defense is not, I mean, every practice area is what it is. And so people can look at different practice areas and think, oh, there's something wrong with it. There's some, and insurance defense, every different type of work that attorneys do, every practice area, they're just businesses. So, insurance defense firm is a business. So, this is our business. That's a business. It's no different. It could be, one hamburger place sells cheeseburgers, the other sells. I mean, it's just different types of businesses. So insurance defense is just one business, and so a lot of people are bitter and toxic. They don't like the work that we're doing. Insurance defense is a good business for insurance defense firms, but a lot of times they don't like them. Why don't they like them? Because the job of an insurance defense attorney most of the time is to basically, someone files some auto accident or something, the insurance defense attorney shows up and defends it, knowing that when it makes the most sense financially, the insurance company is going to settle it. So they're not really taking things to trial. They're just settling different cases all the time. Because they're hired by insurance companies. The insurance companies can demand very low rates. So they literally, I've seen $100 an hour. I mean, the insurance companies can demand very low rates, and the attorneys will work for them because their billing rates are low. They don't have a lot of ability to make more money. So, in most insurance defense firms, I mean, the partners make less than first-year associates do at top US law firms. So because the money's not there, the billing rates aren't there, the clients aren't willing to pay the money. So that makes people mad. So they don't like that. So, you have a choice. Like you can, so isn't, some insurance defense attorneys too, you can own your own insurance defense firm and make millions of dollars a year. I mean, people do, but people often do not like the work because they don't believe it's challenging enough. They don't believe that that it's consequential, like everything's going to settle. The quality of the attorneys that are willing to work for that low amount of money is not that high. So that basically, if you have a law degree, you can come here and work. The pay is not good. The clients are hiring the cheapest they can. So there's all these. The matters aren't that important. Like this, this could be just someone you know seeing their whiplash from a car. I mean, it's just, they're not often, there's huge insurance defense issues too. I mean, but in general, that's why a lot of people are angry about it. But my point would be is, that's a good job for some people. And some people have no problem doing it and are happy. But you have to, if you're not doing something you like, then and that you feel has purpose, then maybe that's not good. I mean, I'm not criticizing insurance defense attorneys, but that may not be, if that's what you want to do, that's what you should do. But for a lot of people, that's why I think a lot of them are very bitter about it, just because, um, um, I think that's because, there's just, those are, some of the reasons. Not consequential work, low pay, not a lot of opportunity for advancement, not hiring the best attorneys, so being expendable, that sort of thing. What should I consider in choosing and registering a law practice? What are the merits and demand of each? Is better to use I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. I don't, I think people usually will organize things as a professional corporation or something because, for liability purposes. So I mean, you'd have to figure that one out. If it was me choosing, a name for a firm, I think most people use their name. You can use that. But you could certainly, if there was a good immigration name that sounded like, if you're Indian, it said, Indian immigration assistance or something. I don't know, but that might actually attract more clients than just your name. I have no idea. Just an idea. Let's see here. All right, great. Well, I think that's about it. Thanks everyone for being here today. I think this is a very important presentation. I hope that you were able to get a lot out of what I was talking about and understand it. I mean, these decisions that people make with their careers and their lives, I mean, can be, major. So it can, what you learned today, I mean, hopefully, I've helped you make hopefully much better decisions in terms of how you're going to approach and how you think about your career. And ultimately, everything, the people that are the most successful typically are exposed, whether it's from me or from someone else or someone that's a mentor at some point. They're exposed to like different ways of thinking about things. So I do think it's extremely important to be on these sort of things, and I commend you because most attorneys are not willing to take the time to learn about this sort of thing, and for that reason they don't grow and have the kind of careers and lives they're capable of. So thanks again, and I will be back and talk to everyone next week. Bye.